happen here in the first quarter. Suffocating at times.
Alex Caruso on the floor for Oklahoma City. Another one of the big pieces.
Welcome back, guys, to another recap from the Bring the Thunder podcast. Today we will be recapping the OKC win 137-101 over the New Orleans Pelicans. So let's just kind of jump right into this one. Obviously a pretty big lead there, but in this game we set our franchise high. We set 27 threes, OKC high. 27 threes in a game. That is ridiculous. After a game where last time we talked about how we won without shooting threes too well, this time they went out and set the franchise high. So what else is there to complain about? Because we're running out of things.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Landon.
I can't complain, but I can say one thing. Watching four stringers is becoming the regular.
Yeah, absolutely it is. We had
every time I see a Thunder game, I look forward to it. I'm like, yes, Alex Dukas is going to get some minutes tonight.
Yes, exactly. We had 16 threes from our bench today. That's outrageous. I mean,
it started with Caruso in the first half.
Of course, yeah.
He went 4 for 5 in the first half, I believe. Didn't make another one in the second half, but I mean, 4 threes from Caruso is outstanding. Shea got 4, J-Dub 3 out of 4, Chet had 2, Lou had 2. Wiggins with another 4. And then at the end, like Landon said, the four stringers were killing it tonight. And that's not a normal thing for them. They normally maybe hurt our stats a bit and hurt the score, but they were absolutely on fire.
Kept the foot on the gas, kept our 30-point lead.
Yeah, they did. Yes, they did. Carlson's 3 was like the greatest make I've ever seen, bro. He laced that. That was insane. Yeah, no, that's just crazy. I mean, that's not... This was a fun game. I'll let you kind of talk about the whole timeout thing, Joe, if you want, because that did kind of keep it from being overly fun. But for the most part, this was a really fun game. It was just, you never felt worried. It was laid back. You were just kind of enjoying it. But the fact that Chet is playing this way, he's not 100%, like by any means. He's not playing the way we know he can. And he ends with 5 blocks. He had 4 blocks in 11 minutes. What?
Yeah, I'd probably call him the best rim protector in the league. I'm not going to get into those timeouts yet, but I just wanted to,
good call.
Get a few things quick. Game started a little slow again. You got to understand Chet's second game back in how many weeks he missed? About 12 weeks, whatever. So it's it's going to be some learning process playing alongside the Hardenstein as well. Shea started slow. He was 3 for 10 at one point. I texted in the group chat, come on, Shea, let's get it going. And he finishes 50% with 31 points in 3 quarters again. This was a game where he didn't even have to do much. There was a lot where he was on the glass and he was kind of just backing up because this was a game where he didn't want to get injured. He almost did. He was holding that leg for a quick second when he got fouled. And the wrist. But yeah, another great game from Dub. He's just an all-around basketball player. He's outstanding. You mentioned Chet with the 5 blocks. Hartenstein, 6 points, but 13 rebounds doing his thing. Lou, great defense, couple knockdown threes. And Aaron Wiggins, he is turned into my favorite basketball player in the league. And I would have never thought I'd be saying that. But truthfully, I mean, this guy is awesome. Another 24-point outing. And to be honest, if it was a harder game, he could have been scoring more. Because the ball was just moving around tonight. But
yeah, for sure. And I'd just like to say on behalf of the Bring the Thunder podcast here, congrats to Aaron Wiggins for 2,000 career points, man. That was awesome to say. 2,000. Yes, he hit 2,000 career points tonight. Awesome to see a player like that get it. I mean, just from the background, with the late pick and having literally all of us watching him grow and become this great player, it's just really cool to see him hit that tonight.
Yeah, he's been around since since Chris Paul left the team, so he's been around a long time. And that 2,000 is going to turn into 4,000 real fast the way he's been playing. So
he's trying to.
Absolutely love that guy. I will get into the timeouts now really quickly. So there's a common trend here where we saw it last year in the first round of the playoffs. Every time OKC hits a bucket, or 2 in a row, Willie Green's calling timeout right away. I mean, this dude will stay to that. I don't watch the Pelicans too often, so maybe he does that consistently.
And sub a player out every time they do something he doesn't like.
Right, which I'm not opposed to that. But the timeouts, I mean, they're down by 30 points, and there's one basket in the fourth quarter, timeout. They come right back out from the timeout. We score another basket, timeout. Dude, I understand. That's actually not a bad way to coach your team if they're in the game. This is a regular season game that doesn't mean nothing to you. You're already down by 30. Get it over with. It's just more pain to your players at that point.
Yeah, I can't even imagine being a fan and just having to continuously, pretty much you're just extending the loss. I mean, how much longer are you going to make your fans sit around and watch this? Like, just
that game should
put
have
the nail in the coffin.
That game should have been a at most 2-hour game. I think it extended to about like 2 hours and 15 minutes.
It's flat out just annoying.
I mean, some of those calls, Dagnall shouldn't have to be challenging, though. Some of them are calls that a professional ref that's reffing in the NBA should be able to make the right call pretty easily on.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we end up saying that way more than we should, unfortunately, but very true.
Obviously not a factor tonight.
No, it couldn't have possibly made a difference whatsoever in a game like this, just because of, I mean, forced 22 turnovers. We're absolutely killing them on defense. One thing that I have repetitively been pointing out in games, and I'm going to keep doing it, is just Alex Caruso's stepping it up, man. I mean, I keep saying it, and I'm going to keep saying it because he's turned a leaf. He's starting to play the way that we've been hoping, the way that when we traded for him, we were excited, and this is the guy we were excited for. I mean, there were some fans kind of getting pretty down on him in the first half of the season, and I will admit, I was disappointed, but I wasn't like, this guy's terrible. I mean, I never was out on him, but I was disappointed. I expected more, and now it's like you can just see the confidence growing slowly but surely, and it's so nice to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really hard for him, especially with all the injuries he's had, and also this is just his first year with this team, so it takes some time to get acclimated anyway. And then with the injuries and the inconsistent play, but I'd like to say he's finally arrived. You mentioned the 22 forced turnovers. I also wanted to mention the defense because even against a team that's banged up in New Orleans, you got to play basketball. You got to play hard defense. You got to play your best. And I think we might have had like 4 or 5 forced offensive fouls on Zion tonight, which was absolutely like great to see.
Well, for my NFL fans, when you lower your shoulder like Derrick Henry every time you drive to the paint, you're bound to get some offensive fouls called on you.
But it's just really nice to see that we're still taking those charges in a game like this because they don't have to lay their bodies on the line in a game like this. But a guy like Jay will consistently, do that, and we just have all around great team and great teammates. So,
yeah, another thing to point out was going into this game, the last 3 games, Trey Murphy was averaging almost 30 points, and we held him down to 23 tonight. We made it harder for him. I mean, 23 wasn't bad. He still had 4 threes, but this is he's been on a tear recently, and I think we did a pretty good job for the most part. He hit some pretty crazy threes, but other than that, we did pretty good all around on everybody. But this team is just it's just insane how much better we are than like not just comparing a game like this where we're playing the bottom seed in the West. Like obviously we're expected to win, we should win, but this was pretty much watching our backups take on the Pelicans for the second half, and we end up setting the franchise record for threes in a game. Like we keep saying that, like I kind of think you mentioned it, Joe, in one episode, that I keep expecting like one of these days we're just gonna miss our shots and we're gonna lose a game we shouldn't. I'm not sure when that day is gonna be anymore. Like I feel like I'm just waiting for that to happen so I can be expected. But at this point, I'm like, I'm not really worried at all.
Yeah, I'm not worried at all either anymore. The only reason I was waiting for it is because it's been a common thing in OKC history just to like come out flat and lose a game that they shouldn't. Like I mean, forever.
Yeah.
But when your team has the best net rating of all time, I'm gonna say that again. The Oklahoma City Thunder have the best. This team has the best net rating of all time. It's pretty hard to have one of those games because, I mean, through how many games? 52 now. 52 games through the season.
52.
It's becoming pretty apparent that there's no slowing this team down.
Yeah, for sure.
43-9.
43-9.
Yep. And I mean, like you said, it's becoming apparent there's no slowing us down. And Chet's not at 100%. We still don't have Case and Wallace back, and still don't have AJ Mitchell. I mean, we mention the injuries every episode because it's that big of a deal. I mean, we're doing all this without a fully healthy roster.
Yeah,
that is
that just
incredible.
That raises the bigger question, like, how do we cut down this rotation for the playoffs? We just have so many guys that can bring their 100 every night and produce.
Yeah,
it's going to be tough.
That's a great question. Yeah.
It is a good question. I mean, there's a few guys in mind, but we're never going to predict what Mark does because you know how he likes to keep his rotations.
I mean, and it can change game to game.
That's
the advantage of having such a depth-filled team.
That is exactly what my take on the situation is. I believe whoever we're playing, I think Mark will adjust to the flow of the series in the playoffs. And if somebody's obviously going to hurt the team more, Mark is smart. He's a good coach.
Right.
I mean, he's going to make the adjustments necessary, at least in the playoffs when we need to. I'm fairly confident about that. And if he doesn't, I mean, let's say that somebody like I don't know. Let's say someone like Jay Will is making a big difference, and we think that he can, affect the series in a big way. But Mark doesn't give him as many minutes as we want. This team's so good that I really don't think it'll end up being an issue. We have so many other players that we can just beat them in other facets of the game.
So the thing is, you're exactly right. Mark will make the right choice. He had to make a really hard choice in benching Josh Giddey last year against Dallas, but it was the right move. It was a bad matchup. This year, the problem is for other teams, we don't have a bad matchup on the floor ever.
No, we don't.
Ever. So, Mark's going to have to make the right moves, but any move, I think, is going to be the right one. So
yeah, absolutely.
We'll just have to roll with the hot hand.
Yep.
Yeah, which I think he's been doing pretty good at that recently, especially with the Wiggins minutes. But kind of talking about there not being any sort of good matchup for other teams, Joe. I mean, last year we all could admit the issue with Giddey. I mean, there were so many issues, but one of them was it was so clear that they were going to attack him on the defensive end. There's not one player on this team that you can just one-on-one attack on defense, other than, obviously there's some of the back of the bench guys, but there are 10 players on this team that are defensive. At bare minimum, they are above average defenders.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. There is not a single other team in the league that can say that. I don't think there's been a single team in NBA history that can say that they have that many good defensive players. And as the saying goes, defense wins championships. And honestly, if and I don't want to say when yet, but if we do end up pulling it off this year, that's the first thing I'm going to say. This team's defense it's unparalleled. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, so the only guys that weren't supposed to be, the best defenders coming into the season was Isaiah Joe, because he's a 3-point guy, gets to the rim sometimes, but he's an offensive player, and Aaron Wiggins. I'm watching Aaron Wiggins consistently not only get exponentially better on offense, but he's playing outstanding defense. He's playing the same Thunder defense that everyone else is, passing lanes.
Yes.
He's not, a lockdown defender, but I'm not scared of putting him on the third best player on the court, especially when he's putting 20 points up a game. So, there are no holes on the defensive side of the game. One thing I did want to bring up, and I was really curious to hear your guys' opinions. I was shouting it out during the beginning of the game. I know it's only the second game with the double big lineup with Chet and Hartenstein. I do think it's going to start slow. I do think it'll get better. But the one thing I'm seeing is not as much spacing for Shea. And I think that's going to directly affect his game because he needs an open court to get to his spots. That's why I'm all for Wiggins starting at the 2 and Chet starting at the 5 and having Hartenstein still come in and give you 30 minutes a game, but just to start the game because you don't want to start playoff games slow offensively.
Sure.
You don't want to start in a hole. And I think just to have Shea get going early, get to his spots and, do what he's been doing would be better than trying out this double big lineup. I know we could try it out now because it's not going to affect us.
Right.
But like I said, I think the only time that double big lineup should be in is when we're playing a team like Dallas or we're playing a team like Cleveland because the offense just flows much better when they're one big and one on the bench. I hate to say it because they're two outstanding centers. But it's not like we're going to play one for 18 minutes a game. We're going to play them for 30, both players anyways.
Right.
So I don't know. Do you guys agree or?
Yeah, so I think you make a great point. I absolutely agree that when it comes to playing teams like Dallas, playing teams like Cleveland, I want to try it. I want to see how it works more. I think it would work nicely. I saw the Shea issue as well, the Shea spacing, but that's not my problem with it. My problem with it, and this will come with over time, maybe it gets better. It clogs Chet. Chet just stands there. He
That's
doesn't
another.
he's not in the right places. And I don't know if that could very easily just be Chet's not been playing. This team's been playing a bit differently. He needs to find his role, but I don't think that's what it is. He looks out of place. He looks like he's trying to set these off-ball screens for other people, but that's not his game. Chet is not this guy who's just on the court to set off-ball screens. Chet can be our second best scorer if he wants to. And playing him alongside Hart, I just don't see him getting the shots that we want for him. But on the other end, there are times where it works really nicely on the defensive side of the ball because there were several times tonight where Chet's allowed, as the four, Chet is allowed to try to block a shot in the paint and not have to worry about us not getting the rebound because Hart's going to pick it up. And that is something that kind of kicked us in the butt last year. Chet would go to contest a shot and nobody would be able to get the rebound because Chet just launched himself trying to go get the block, which granted, that's what he's here for, get the block. But if he doesn't get that block, our guards are fighting for the rebound. Well, having another 7 foot 250 or having a 7 footer who's also 250 down there, that cleans up the boards. But I just think we need to experiment more. I do. I think right now is too early to tell. My goodness. But I'm for now on the side of I think it's going to put Chet back in terms of offensive production. And I'm completely against anything that would do that because Chet, that's where Chet's a unicorn. Don't get me wrong. We talked earlier about how he's a top interior protector. He's also a sniper. He can drive like a 7 foot player should not be able to. He's got a nasty spin move, and he's he's an above average mid range shooter. When he's at the four with Harton, I just don't see him getting those kind of looks. But what do you think, Landon? I know you're kind of a fan of the two bigs. I want to hear your thoughts.
I definitely need a bigger sample size before I make like a full 100% decision on it. But I think if we face a team like the Cavaliers, your hand's almost forced because you're facing 2 7-foot guys in Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, and we've seen that's a problem because they just attack us in the paint and out rebound us. But yeah, I'm not liking the mesh a lot on offense right now. I do think it's working on offense. There was a stat in the second quarter with 10 minutes left. We had 16 points off turnovers while the Cavaliers had 0. So obviously it's clicking defensively. I think the offense needs more time. I think with Hardenstein, it kind of takes Chet out of the paint where he gets a lot of his easier buckets because the defense just collapses on one of our guards like Shea or Dub, and then it leaves Chet wide open for a shot in the paint. But Hardenstein, he doesn't really have a 3-ball or a mid-range on him, so he kind of has to live in the paint, which eliminates that part of Chet's game. So it's definitely going to be, Chet might have to become more of a mid-range threat, 3-point threat to make it work. He already has a good 3-point shot, but he might have to utilize it even more.
Yeah, and I don't really love that because I think I said this a few episodes ago. You want to optimize both of these centers' playing time. And like both of you guys said, Chet is outstanding in the paint, offensively and defensively, but I'm focusing more here on offense. But Hartenstein is great in the paint too, but like Landon just said, he's not stretching. And I don't want to stretch Chet out to a mid-range and 3-point shooting guy. You're not getting the best you can out of him. And he's only in his second season, third technically, but second season playing. So you don't want to screw up his development either because he's not even scratching the surface yet. So, like I said, start Chet, have Hartenstein come off the bench when needed against guys like Cleveland, against guys like Dallas with AD and Gafford and Lively. And I'm sure I'm missing
if they're healthy.
Right. I'm sure I'm missing a few other teams, but that lineup doesn't have to be our starting lineup.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll just take time. It'll just take time to really see what potentially, for all we know, something will end up breaking out and they'll figure something out that works really well and we'll be shocked by it. But for now, you said it well, and not a big enough sample size. We just can't fully make a decision in terms of if we like it or not. But Yeah.
And Chet's like 70%, which doesn't help. We're not seeing
exactly.
him at his fullest.
Right.
I saw when they were walking to the locker room, there's that little tunnel that they walk through on the baseline or the sideline, I mean, every time they go into halftime, and he was kind of holding his hip a bit. So I think it's pretty clear he's not 100% just yet.
Right. And you just tell by the way he's moving too. He's not moving the way he normally does. There are some plays where you can see him kind of, bump it up a couple gears to normal, but for the most part, he looks tired. He just looks like he's really trying to get back into the flow of it, which you can't blame the guy. I mean, it's been a long time. But practicing and games are totally different.
But that's what these games are for before the All-Star break. Give him a few games before the All-Star break. Let him get back into shape over All-Star break. He's not in the All-Star weekend, so he'll be training. He'll be getting back, getting some cardio in, I'm sure.
And he lives and breathes basketball. He's going to be in the gym working his butt off.
Yeah. That's why we love that guy as well.
I was about to say, one of the best parts about him.
Yeah, so...
incredibly dedicated.
He'll be completely fine. We don't even need him to be 100%. We need 100% Chet by playoff time. That's it.
Right, but if it takes... I mean, if up until the last 10 games of the season he just hit 100, I'm cool with that. I mean, just... take time. Don't rush it. If we rush it, that's when we see the
It's not even a bad problem to have.
No, not at all. I mean, the fact that he's back earlier than he should be is already it's a gift in itself. So just got to make sure it's not going to get rushed because, that's when things might get rough, knock on wood, but we'll see. I mean, yeah, but as for the two bigs, I think it'll be interesting. I'm excited to see Mark keep trying it. I will say that though. I do want to keep seeing it just to kind of get a better feel for it. But yeah, it'll be interesting. All right. Well, if we want to go ahead and end off the recap there, unless anybody's got any last words.
Just not a whole lot to say.
Yeah, I was gonna say when you win by 36, there's only so many words you can say.
I got a few.
Yeah, let's hear them.
Thunder up, baby. Let's go.
Shout out Chip England.